Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to continue our look at the complete history of the Pokemon trading card game. We need to take a look at EX Emerald. Now, EX Emerald was a very, very, very weird set. One of the weirdest things about the set, it never came out in Japan. This was a set that was released in US, UK, Europe, etc. that was never released in Japan. And the reason was extremely simple. The Emerald video game... Oh, spam that like button, by the way. Make me, show me you want these videos. The views have been going down a little bit. It makes me sad. Let's get some love and some likes and all of that. So Pokemon and Nintendo, they wanted a TCG set to fit in with the release of the Emerald video game. So they made one. Now, what they basically did was they pilfered a bunch of other products in Japan. The Japanese quick construction packs, the Japanese Emerald gift set, and a bunch of Japanese promos. Shout out to Bulbapedia for making this information way easier to go ahead and collate. And then Japan did get the rest of the cards, Summer's promos, and the rest in the Eidolon Forest set. It's a little bit weird. And because of this, the set was not good. Now, usually we spend 15 to 20 minutes going through all the best cards in the set and the top decks and all of that. We're not going to be doing that today, ladies and gentlemen. 4. There are 4 cards from this set which were good. And one of them was a tech which I only really saw popping up in one deck. But then again, that deck did win Worlds, so, probably worth at least remembering. And the reason for this is extremely simple. We're collating together a bunch of Japanese products that were not intended to be particularly competitive. Now, the Pokemon EX that came along in the quick construction packs were supposed to be good, and that's why both the Pokemon we've got here that were good came from those packs. It is, not a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. Not a coincidence. Now, one really fun little fact from the folks over at Bulbapedia, it was actually the first set after the Pokemon official website decided to put card spoilers online. Nowadays, if you go to Pokemon.com, you can go and look up any image of any card from the Pokemon era. They don't have the Wizards of the Coast era cards for various boring legal reasons. Except what they did was they actually put it up early, which is a standard thing that websites tend to do for information like this, so they can make sure that the information goes online at the right time. But obviously it's the internet, people found it and just threw the card images up everywhere and they all got leaked and spoiled. So nowadays, if you want the official images of Pokemon cards on the Pokemon website, you have to wait until, UK time, it's kind of the evening of release day. I know, because every time the new set goes up, the first thing I do is go and save an image of every card. Because I make too many Pokemon videos. Hey ho. Now, one thing that is very, very cool in this set is they actually had holographic energy. They were the first holographic energy we actually saw come along, and they were the reverse holo slot in about 1 every 3 packs. They are still considered by a lot of players, not by me, but by a lot of players, to be the best energy around, and yeah, these are very sought after. The actual best energy cards are these ones, the holofoil equivalents of the base set energy, and I do have enough of these to make a few different colours like fighting and fire and psychic. And I've got at least those to make with the base set holo energy, which is awesome. Now, we did have a pre-release promo for this particular set. The pre-release promo was Grumpig. And we did have a box topper here. It was the secret rare Farfetch'd, which was incidentally the only secret rare in the entire set. It's not a particularly good, special, or exciting secret rare, and like I said in previous videos, when the only secret rare in the set is also the box topper, it becomes significantly less rare than the EXs and all in the set, because there's all the ones that are naturally found in packs, which aren't that many, and then everyone that buys a box gets one as well. Oh, yeah. Now, speaking of cool little promos, They did do that thing whereby the Whismer in the set was the City promo 2006, the Loudred was the State and Regional promo, and then the X-Bloud was the Nationals promo. They used to do this, I miss this, where they would literally have the basic as the City promo, State and Regionals was the Stage 1, and then Nationals was the Stage 2. They don't do that anymore, unfortunately, but they were really cool promos to go and collect, and some of them, they're not terribly cheap to pick up all the time. Some of them are, some of them very much are not. Now, in terms of the theme decks here, we did have two. We had Hydro Bloom, and we had Wildfire. Now, Hydro Bloom was a water grass deck with Milotic on the box, and you got yourself a holo version of Milotic, as well as a non-holo Glalie, and a non-holo Sceptile. And it is worth pointing out that, as we often see in these theme decks at the time, the Sceptile non-holo was exclusive to the deck. Sceptile was a holo only in the set. Moving over into Wildfire, we had a Lightning Fire deck, and this was very much the Manectric deck. You got a holo Manectric, a non-holo Blaziken, and then a non-holo Manectric. And it is worth pointing out that both the non-holo Manectric and Blaziken were exclusive to the deck. Those could only be found in this particular theme deck. Now, if we're looking for the most expensive card in the set, obviously we're all talking around, the EXs here. But interestingly enough, the most expensive of them has actually become Milotic, where you would often pay around about $80 or more for a copy of this card. It's not hugely playable, to be honest with you. Didn't really pop up in a huge amount of decks, but Milotic is a popular Pokemon, so I suppose that kind of explains it. One thing that is very interesting, the reverse holo Pikachu, it's only a common, but because it's reverse holo, doesn't come around that often, is stamped with EX Emerald. I've seen this card selling for like $40 online because people love Pikachu, and this is an especially cool Pikachu. And even though commons are common by their very nature, the reverse holos, they're still not that common. And the reverse holos back then, stamped with the name of the set, were very, very cool. Now, this set did not have any Pokemon stars. There were no Pokemon stars. There probably should have been, because all the sets around this time were getting them. But of course, this was a set that wasn't copied from a set in Japan. I say copied, I mean released, translated, call it what you will. It was instead a set that was made up of various products, so it was never put together in the same way as a regular set, which means that things like stars were actually excluded and never ended up in the set. But we did have a bunch of EXs, so let's take a quick roll through them. We saw an Altaria EX, reduces damage done by stage 2s, that was kind of fun. We saw a Cacturn EX, which stopped your opponent attaching special energy, which was very fun. Camerupt EX, that could be neither asleep nor paralyzed. Deoxys EX, now this was really interesting, of course. Deoxys has 4 forms: normal, attack, defense, and speed. There were only 3 Deoxys EX in the previous Deoxys expansion, so this basically gave us the 4th and final type of Deoxys EX, and it's even got that same form change ability that lets you swap it for a different Deoxys. We got a Dusclops EX that takes away Darkness Weakness. Medicham EX, that's coming up in a minute, that was phenomenal. Milotic EX that stopped your opponent playing TM cards and is also really expensive. A Raichu EX that said any damage done to any of your Raichu EX from Pokemon EX is reduced by 30, but it did not stack. We then saw the Regis. We saw Regice, Regirock, and Registeel. Now, Regirock would actually be a good Pokemon EX, but not this one. So, moving on, talk about the top cards. This is going to be a shorter history video than usual. There were 4. Now, there were some good reprints in this set. We saw reprints of Double Rainbow Energy and Multi Energy. Really good special energy cards that saw a whole bunch of play. But we've talked about them in previous videos because they came out in previous sets. Similarly, both Wally's Training and Lynette's Net Search were really good supporter cards that saw a huge amount of play in a huge amount of different decks, but unfortunately, they were previously released in previous sets. They were nothing more than reprints. Now, in terms of Pokemon, there was one Pokemon that came out in this set and instantly started crushing the format. Medicham EX was gigantic. It swept US Nationals in 2005. It won the Junior Division of the World Championships. When I say swept, I mean won all 3 age divisions. It instantly became the best deck in the format. It was phenomenal. You see, the Pokebody Wise Aura said, as long as Medicham EX is your active Pokemon, each Pokemon other than EX's can't use any Poke Powers. It turned off all non-EX Pokemon's Pokemon powers. And there were a lot. That Pidgeot that searched any card and was played in so many decks went away. Decks like Ludicolo Macago, which was one of the best decks around at the time. Oh yeah, but Macago searches out your cards and puts them on top of your deck and Ludicolo draws them. Yeah, that's all gone, ladies and gentlemen. Blaziken that accelerates energy. I could keep going, but you probably get the point here. The decks at that time were absolutely built around abilities, and this turned all those abilities off. The attacks were fine. 2 energy, place 3 damage counters however you like. 3 energy if the depending Pokemon has fighting resistance, you do 100. Otherwise, you just do 60. They were fine. They weren't phenomenal. They were fine. But what Medicham did was it had pretty good attacks, and it turned off abilities, and it just completely overwhelmed your opponent, and it just shut down so many of the best decks at the time, and it did become pretty much the best deck pretty much immediately. Now, in terms of other Pokemon that saw play, we do see that the Mewtrick deck, with which Jason Glasinski won the 2006 World Championships, did play a copy of Deoxys EX, the one from this particular set. Remember that Mewtrick revolved around Mew EX and allowed you to copy any attacks from any Pokemon in play? So you could potentially use Mew to copy Deoxys, but it was just 3 energy, 50 damage, not affected by resistance, Poke Powers, Pokebodies, or any other effects on the defending Pokemon. So the deal with Deoxys was this was your, they're blocking me kind of attack. And a deck like Mewtwo, right, does really revolve around having answers to everything. Yes, usually you're just using Manectric EX to stop your opponent using trainer cards other than supporters, but you also need to have a suite of other Pokemon, bearing in mind you can play it to the bench and then immediately copy it with Mew, to really fit any situation, and that's what this Deoxys did. Really nice tech, but it was just a really nice tech. It was not kind of a deck in and of itself. Now, in terms of trainer cards, again, there were 2. The big one here was Battle Frontier. Battle Frontier basically changed everything. You see, Battle Frontier, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, it was a stadium that said each player's Colorless Evolved Pokemon, Darkness Evolved Pokemon, and Metal Evolved Pokemon can't use any Poke Powers or Poke Bodies. Now, there is a question to be asked here, and the question very simply is, well, hang on a second, why so specific? Well, what actually happened was, according to the lovely folks at Bulbapedia, really good website for research, the Japanese designers of the cards basically sent out a call and said, right, what don't you like? What are you worried about? What are the popular cards? And there was Pidgeot, we've already mentioned that, let you search for any card, it was huge. And then they said stuff like Dark Dragonite, Dark Tyranitar, Dark Ampharos. And then we got Battle Frontier, which turns off abilities of those Pokemon. It's an extremely specific card. Fun to note that also Pidgeot was turned off by Medicham, so EX Emerald really did bring some hate in for Pidgeot here. Yeah, Battle Frontier was pretty huge. The only other real new trainer card that saw a bunch of play here was Scott. And Scott was really good. Scott saw play in Mewtrick and Scott saw play in Bright Aura. It was a very nice card. It was a supporter card that read, search your deck for up to 3 in any combination of supporter cards and stadium cards, show them to your opponent, and put them into your hand. So it was just a supporter card that searched out supporters and stadiums. So what you would essentially do is find the stadium you wanted now, maybe even another one just in case for next turn, in case your opponent were to replace it or get rid of it. But then you would also grab your supporter for the next turn as well. Really nice here for consistency. We are fans, ladies and gentlemen. We are fans. But that's it in terms of the best cards. And honestly, in terms of the best decks, we're basically just talking Metacham. There were very, very few playable Pokemon cards in this set. Really, the only good Pokemon in the set was Metacham. But like we've said, Metacham came out and instantly transformed the format. It won all 3 age divisions at the 2005 National Championships in the US, and then went and won the Juniors division of the World Championships. So that's pretty good. There was also a version played to the top 8 of the World Championships in Masters that was piloted by Sami Sakum, chap from the UK. So, you know, hometown hero and all of that. And that did actually use the Ninetales that had Safeguard that blocked attacks from EX Pokemon. So you basically ended up with your Metacham that was very anti-non-EX, and then Ninetales that was very anti-EX, and between those two Pokemon, you could shut down a lot, quite frankly. That card wouldn't come out until Hidden Legends, but it was worth mentioning here while we're talking about Metacham. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's Emerald. As a historical curiosity, it's a phenomenally weird, interesting set, and I love it. As an actual playable set that transformed the metagame, honestly, Metacham and Battle Frontier together transformed the game. There might have only been kind of 2 amazing cards and 2 others that were pretty good, but the 2 amazing cards absolutely changed up the game immeasurably. It was a huge set. It just didn't have many good cards in. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear your memories of Emerald. I want to know if you played back then. I want to know your favourite cards, your favourite decks. I want to know if you didn't play back then and you just give me your opinion on the cards as you see them now. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.